Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. Today I'm going to be doing some Victorian Christmas thrift flips. For my projects today, I'm going to be using these frames with canvas artworks in them that I thrifted for about $1 each. I loved the frames, they are made of plastic, but obviously I didn't really quite love the artwork in there. Unfortunately, the canvas had been stapled in there, so I didn't want to risk damaging it, and I just thought it would just be much better to paint over the top of them and use what I have. I'm going to be using IOD's new Crimson Velvet Transfer. This is from their 2024 holiday release, and it is filled with beautiful vintage and Victorian inspired images, some different sized images, which is great. You've got some smaller ones and obviously some larger ones. I'm going to be creating some Victorian inspired Christmas artwork, so I'm going to be focusing more on the larger images. But this is such a fun and stunning transfer pad that I know I'm going to be getting a lot of use out of this one. I was very inspired by the images on the back of this transfer, particularly the artworks that they had mocked up in this image here. So that is my inspiration. That is what we're trying to achieve. I'm going to be using Paint Couture's Pitch Black chalk paint, and I'm going to be applying one coat over the entire frame and the inside part. Now this frame, it's a little bit tricky to see, but this frame had lots of sort of nicks and dings out of it. I didn't love the color. It wasn't really a gold that I like, so I'm just going to paint over everything. I like to use black when I'm going to be using my metallics, and I'm thinking bronze luxe metallic on the frame for this, so pitch black is going to be perfect. For the first artwork, I'm just doing one coat in the center, but I'm going to repeat the same process for the other frames and artworks, but I will be doing 2 coats underneath those. Once my paint was dry, I took out this beautiful Christmas design from the Crimson Velvet Transfer. That is what we're going to be using in the center. I'm going to position the transfer in the center part where I have the canvas, and I'm just working out how much I'm going to be able to use of this transfer, and I'm creasing it where I'm going to have to cut. Unfortunately, I am going to have to cut a little bit off, but you're still going to get to see the beautiful Christmas tree. We're just going to cut off the top section there, and I will have to cut off some of what appears to be presents down the bottom, but ultimately I just want to fit this beautiful Christmas tree in. So I'm then going to use my scissors to cut along my crease line. The grid lines also help here, but I definitely want to make sure that I have the top section reasonably flat and even so that when I position it, it's going to look straight. I'm then going to trim off the bottom section. Once I'm happy with the size of the transfer, I pulled off the backing, and I'm going to position it where I want it on the inner canvas section, and then I'm going to press down, and I'm going to sort of smooth that down, get it stuck down so it's not going to sort of slip around, and then I'm going to take the transfer tool that comes in the pack with your transfer pad, and I'm going to start rubbing. And you'll notice I always have a hand down on the transfer while I'm working so that it doesn't shift. Now this is a canvas, so I've just popped a book underneath the canvas surface so that I have a harder surface to rub against, because unfortunately it was sort of pressing the canvas down and making it a little bit tricky to get that transfer really stuck on there. So I'm just going to continue to rub and really work that transfer, especially into the edges. And something that I noticed was in a few areas where I got some little cracks, which can sometimes happen, because I have the black in the background, it really did make this look like a painted canvas artwork. So I really liked that effect, and it added to that sort of vintage feel. So I'm just going to continue rubbing along, working in sections, gently pulling that plastic up, putting it back if I miss any areas. And then when I was done, I cut off a piece of the plastic carrier sheet, and I'm just using that to burnish the transfer down further, so to make sure it's all stuck down really well. Next, I'm going to use Paint Couture's Extreme Guard in Satin Top Coat. I'm using this to seal everything in. I went with satin because I do want this to look like an artwork, and a lot of those older oil paintings do have a bit of a sheen to them, so this definitely ties in with that. Now, because I was working on a canvas surface, I did get a couple of little wrinkles here and there. Unfortunately, that really couldn't be helped given the surface, but it just sort of added to the look of that hand-painted effect. When that was dry, I took out my Bronze Luxe Metallic by Paint Couture, and I'm going to go around the frame and I'm going to add that over the entire outside. Now, I'm not going for full coverage. I want some of that black to peek through underneath. We're going for a vintage worn bronze frame, so having that black underneath is definitely going to add to that effect. Now, I'm just going along the inner edge of the frame to add some of that bronze, and if I get any on the image, I can just use a wet wipe to pull it back. We have sealed that, so that's definitely a good thing to do to keep your work tidy if you're really worried about going on top of the transfer. I'm going for a vintage Victorian look here, so bronze really was the perfect choice. But if this wasn't to your taste, obviously you could paint the frame a different color. Perhaps you could use a different kind of luxe metallic, maybe a copper or a silver, or maybe you could create a faux wood look. I have done a video in the past where I've done that on a plastic frame. And here's a look at our finished Christmas tree artwork. This was a quick and easy project, but as you can see, it's definitely giving Victorian Christmas vibes. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. For my second project, I'm going to be using this beautiful wreath from the same transfer pad. As you can see, I already have my frame painted black. It's dry and ready to go. I'm just going to trim off the extra bits there, and then I'm going to peel the paper backing off and position the wreath on my canvas. Now I have painted the background with 2 coats of pitch black chalk paint. I'm loving that darker, moody look with these beautiful florals, and I'm going to continue to rub the transfer, lifting it as I go, making sure that I get all of those little edges and the berries and things like that, just really sort of taking my time. And then when I'm finished, I will rub and burnish it further with the carrier sheet. To seal my transfer and my paint, I'm going to be using Satin Extreme Guard by Paint Couture again, and I'm just going to be doing 1 coat. When that was dry, I took out that Bronze Luxe Metallic again, and we're going to be painting it to match the first frame. Again, not going for full coverage here, just sort of gliding that paint over the top. If you wanted a sort of more matte and perfect finish, obviously you could come in with a second coat. Now I did keep this one pretty simple. I thought about adding in maybe some of the gold words from the new tinsel transfer, but I really loved the beautiful wreath here. I felt like it was beautiful and it stood alone, and I think it was really just perfect as is. And here's a look at our wreath artwork. This transfer design is so stunning. I love the combination of the fruit and the florals and the berries. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. For my final frame project, I'm going to cut out this beautiful stag here. I'm going to cut out, obviously, the stars, save those for another project. And I am simply going to position this beautiful stag design in the center. And then I'm going to press down and start rubbing. I again kept it really simple. I didn't want to overcomplicate this. I wanted this to be something that anyone could do to create some beautiful festive artwork for their home. And these transfers really can stand alone. That being said, obviously you could come in with stencils or maybe some other gilded transfers, but I actually just loved this stag on its own. Once I finished burnishing the design, I sealed it with Paint Couture's Extreme Guard in satin. If you don't like to have shine on your projects, obviously you could use a flat finish for this. Finally, I'm going to add that bronze luxe metallic around the frame. This is a project that anyone can do, and you can do this with any sort of frame. Even if you don't have an ornate frame like this, you could take a plain wooden frame, you could add perhaps some of IOD's trimmings molds. I have a compilation video on decorating frames that I released recently, and I love decorating plain frames with IOD molds. You can completely transform them, give them those ornate details, and then you could come in with the same metallics to finish them off. And here's our stag artwork. I think this is simple but beautiful. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. For my final project today, I'm going to be working on this pair of metal candlesticks that I thrifted. I've already sprayed them with some gloss clear coat to give them something to grab onto, give that paint something to grab onto. And I'm going to be using Paint Couture's Pitch Black because I'm going to be turning them into brass style candlesticks. So we're going to be doing very similar technique here to what we did on the frames, applying 2 coats of pitch black chalk paint over the top. However, this time I am dabbing and stippling that paint on. I want to give it a little bit of a textured surface. I don't want it to look like brush strokes. So I did 2 coats, I let them dry, and then I came in with that same bronze luxe metallic, and again I am dabbing that on so that you can still see some of the black underneath. I do want this to look like sort of weathered and tarnished brass. So we do want some of those darker spots peeking through. Now I only ended up doing, I would say 1.5 coats, because my second coat I really only went in and touched up any areas where it was obvious that there were brush strokes or any really big gaps in the bronze. So this is a very simple way to transform those candlesticks that don't fit your decor. Grab some paint and you can definitely transform them and get them to suit your style pretty easily. Once I finished working on the first candlestick, obviously I just repeated the same process on the second one. When the bronze was dry, I took out some red velvet ribbon that I had in my stash, and I'm going to cut that to size and then just tie a simple bow. Red velvet is definitely a staple when it comes to sort of Victorian style decorating, so it was the perfect choice. And here's our finished candlesticks. This was another quick and easy flip, but it is amazing how you can use paint to transform something quite generic into something with a classic look. Let me know what you think of these in the comments. I really hope that you enjoyed today's video and that it's given you some ideas on how you can use IOD's beautiful new Crimson Velvet transfer. Let me know if you had a favorite project from today. If you enjoyed today's video, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, comment, and share it out. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our videos. You can find the products used today, including the new beautiful IOD transfer, on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Thanks for watching.